There was once a wealthy man who had two sons. The older son was quiet, dutiful, and worked hard in his father's fields. But the younger son was restless. He was tired of his father's rules and longed for the freedom of the wide world. One morning, the younger son approached his father with a shocking request. "Father, give me my share of the estate now, instead of waiting until you die." To demand an inheritance early was a profound insult. It was as if the son were saying, "I wish you were dead." Yet, the father did not argue or shout. With a heavy heart, he divided his wealth between his two boys. A few days later, the younger son packed everything he owned, turned his back on his family home, and set off for a distant country. In that faraway land, the young man lived exactly as he had dreamed. He threw massive parties, spent money recklessly, and surrounded himself with fair-weather friends. He wasted his entire inheritance on a life of empty pleasure. Then, everything went wrong. Just as his pockets ran completely empty, a severe famine struck the land. Food became scarce and prices skyrocketed. The friends who had toasted his wealth disappeared overnight. Desperate and starving, the young man begged a local farmer for work. The farmer sent him into the fields to feed his pigs. As the boy stood in the mud, his stomach twisted with hunger. He looked at the pods he was throwing to the pigs and realized he was so desperate that even the livestock's food looked delicious to him. Looking at his torn clothes and filthy hands, he had a moment of clear, painful truth. He thought to himself, "Back home, even my father's hired servants have more food than they can eat. And here I am, starving to death in a pig pen. I will get up, go back to my father, and tell him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Please, just hire me as one of your servants.'" With his speech rehearsed and his head bowed in shame, the young man began the long, humiliating walk home. Meanwhile, miles away, the father was standing on the road, looking out at the horizon, just as he had done every single day since his boy left. "I am no longer worthy to be called your son." But the father wouldn't even let him finish. He turned to his servants and shouted joyfully, "Quick, bring the finest robe in the house and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Kill the fattened calf. We are going to have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." In that culture, it was considered deeply undignified for an elderly patriarch to run. But he didn't care. He threw his arms around the filthy, smelly boy and kissed him. The son tried to deliver his rehearsed speech. "Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you." Suddenly, he spotted a limping, ragged figure in the distance. Even in rags, the father recognized the stride of his son. The father didn't wait. He didn't let the boy walk all the way to the gate to beg. Filled with overwhelming love and compassion, the old man bunched up his robes and ran down the dusty road, a deeply undignified act for an elder in that culture. He threw his arms around his filthy, foul-smelling son and kissed him. The boy tried to choke out his apology. "Father, I am no longer worthy to be called your son." But the father interrupted him, shouting to the servants, "Quick, bring the finest robe. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Let's throw a massive feast, for this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." Meanwhile, the older son returned from a grueling day in the fields. Hearing the music and dancing, he discovered his wasteful brother was being celebrated with a fattened calf. Furious, he refused to go inside. The father came out and gently pleaded with him, but the older brother snapped, "Look, I've slaved for you for years and never disobeyed. Yet you never even gave me a young goat to celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours returns after wasting your money, you throw him a party." The father looked at him with deep tenderness and said, "My son, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate, for this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." The primary moral is that true love and grace do not require you to earn your way back. The father doesn't make his son sleep in the servant's quarters, doesn't lecture him, and doesn't demand that he pay back the lost money first. The moment the son turns back, the Father runs to meet him. No matter how badly you mess up or how far you stray, genuine repentance is always met with open arms and total forgiveness. The younger son thought freedom meant having no rules, plenty of money, and chasing instant gratification. But he learned the hard way that when the money runs out, so do the fake friends. True freedom isn't about doing whatever you want. It's about making choices that lead to life, not destruction. Humility and admitting your mistakes is the first step toward restoring your life. The older brother did everything right on the outside, but his heart was full of resentment, pride, and jealousy. He couldn't celebrate his brother's survival because he was too busy keeping score of his own hard work. By refusing to forgive, he ended up locking himself out of the party. Being dutiful is meaningless if it makes you cold, bitter, and judgmental toward others. Compassion for those who are hurting or lost is always more important than a flawless track record.